welcome back. My name is Mark Stanifer. He is Craig Fullen, and welcome to another installment of From Surviving to Thriving, helping you navigate this new normal. Well, if you've been with us the last couple of installments, you know we've talked about the physical environment and how important it is now that that's been disrupted to give that some attention. And even more so, the mental environment or your mindset, checking your mindset and giving that some attention. Today, we're going to talk about a different topic that might not be high on your priority list, but it's certainly worthy of consideration. Craig, today we're going to address routine.
Yes, and let's talk about what routines are, because most people, if you talk about what this coronavirus has done, it's disrupted their routine, but they really haven't thought about, well, what are my routines and how are they affecting me, right? So I view routines as a series of habits that you do at designated times that get you certain results. And the reality is we could be doing and going through good routines or bad routines, right? And that's just something to keep in mind. So that's how I want people to look at them, as a series of habits strung together that get you certain results, good or bad. So we'll talk about both the positive and negative routines.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because what you're saying is that we have a routine. Whether we realize it or not,
Correct.
we have a routine, we have habits. And the challenge that is before us at this point is, because those routines or those habits may have been disrupted, it's a great opportunity to become more aware of what were we doing and why were we doing that, and was it really working for us? You know, like we talked in the last installment, just creating this awareness around what is, so that once you see it, you can begin to change it.
Absolutely. And so let's talk, just to give an example, let's talk about a bad habit, or what could be perceived as a bad habit, right? Especially in this environment, a lot of people are seeking comfort, and they just want to feel good with all that's going on in the world right now. So maybe they're just kind of, they're not eating healthy, they're choosing, or making bad choices with regards to food, lack of exercises, lack of exercise. Maybe they're sitting in front of the TV and watching Netflix for hours, right? So that's kind of some bad routines that have maybe crept in to their schedule now. But it's kind of just one of those things that just happen, and they've not really become aware of that. As opposed to, maybe before this, you had routines that were working really well for you. You knew what time you had to get up, right? You knew what time you had to get the kids ready for school. You knew what time you had to be at work, and everything kind of flowed from there. And maybe you based what times you ate and your workout schedule all off of that normal schedule, right? But we're in the new normal now, and people really need to be aware of what routines and habits are in place for them, and whether they're serving them or not.
I have been working from home for a number of years, but that was only after working in a corporate environment for 20 years, getting up, doing my morning thing, going off to work. And boy, it took me a number of months after that came to an end to really diagnose what I was wrestling with or struggling with, which is my routine has changed. I don't have that same routine, that simple thing of just leaving the house and going to work. I didn't have that anymore. And once I became aware that that's what was really, really missing, and I know that sounds kind of simple and maybe a little bit like, well, duh, Mark. But once I became aware that that's what was missing and creating some of that angst, I realized, oh, well, this is just an opportunity for me to establish a new routine and to go to work in a different way, but in a way that works for me now, given my new environment and given how things have changed. I imagine that there's a lot of people that are wrestling with, my routine has changed, my habits have changed, and in many ways, it's been forced on me. And so, what a great opportunity to become aware that the routine has changed, or that it's an opportunity to change your habits or change your routine in a way that works for you. So I wonder if you could just give a couple of examples of your own life. I know you've got some mastery here and have really leaned in your own personal life. Could you just share some examples of what's worked for you?
Sure. Well, I want to go back just a little bit because I think it's important to understand this idea of stringing together the habits to develop really good routines. And I think that's a concept that James Clear in his book Habits really hits on. And so I like to think about it, do you want to have kind of a trigger habit that triggers the rest of your routine, if you will, all the other habits within that. So I like to think of with my personal life, I like to think about things in terms of my morning routines, my lunchtime, afternoon routines, and my evening routines. So for me, the first thing I do when I get out of bed is I get a full glass of water and an energy drink. And from there, I know that's going to trigger all the other routines, which include reading devotionals, which include journaling, which include fitness, but they all kind of stack upon each other. But you just need that one lead domino that kind of triggers all the rest of them. So I think people really should think about, hey, what's the one thing to start with in terms of my routine that's going to trigger all the other habits that I want?
Yeah, that's good. I know for me, I wish it was getting up and drinking a glass of water or exercising. That would sound a little better. For me, it's just getting up, getting into the shower and waking up. You know, for some people, it's a cup of coffee. For me, the shower is the wake up. But that's the trigger for me that begins to set everything else in motion. And, you know, I'm kind of wired as a predictable and scheduled guy. But that shower then sets everything else in motion at that point that I've structured in the morning. And you know, like you, I've got a little bit in the middle of the day, and then I've got some things that I enjoy, particularly around bedtime, just to get myself in that sleep mode and ready to rest well. But I've kind of figured it out without the help of James Clear and Atomic Habits, but it's the same thing, right? It's putting together those habits or those disciplines into a routine that works for you.
Yeah, and just to kind of go back to your earlier point on awareness, you know, I was on a call yesterday with a friend of mine, and you know, he talked about how he had gotten out of his routines of listening to audiobooks and podcasts. And that was because that, you know, all of a sudden now he's stuck at home. He wasn't going out, you know, where he might be driving in his car, he might be more likely to be out on a run or a walk and with other people or whatever. Then that was a time that he was getting those, that was his time for listening to those things. And so he really, it was funny, he almost realized it on our phone call, like, oh my gosh, I need to figure this out. And so I just really need to adjust because this disruption that I'm encountering, because ultimately I've got to get back in the habit of listening to these things, right? So that self-awareness is just such a crucial part, especially in this environment we're in now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's taking it to that point of, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? What is the benefit that I'm getting? And even if the how needs to change, it's staying centered on, why am I doing this activity? And
Start with why.
Why is it important to me? That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. So
well, great thoughts.
Yeah, it's the Simon Sinek start with why. I think that will really help you, guide you with the awareness of where your habits and routines need to go.
Yeah. Great thoughts, Craig. Thanks for sharing some of your experience and your story. And you know, if you're watching this and you've now become aware that you do have a routine and your routine has been broken, or maybe it's not serving you real well, we would just both encourage you to spend some time thinking about how you want to redo it, how you want to structure it. Maybe it's taking a look at the book Atomic Habits. Or maybe it's just simple tweaks that you want to make, or maybe you realize that you would benefit from a very disciplined and structured routine, and that's the piece that's missing. Either way, think about what you're taking away from this video and put it into practice. One of my favorite coaching questions is simply this: so what? You spent a few minutes with us listening. Thank you for that. But so what? What are you going to do to be different as a result of what you heard? That's the challenge. Well, thanks again for staying with us. We will be back in a few days with another installment. And until then, we will see you later.
Take care, everyone.